Do you ever see a successful woman on your feed or in a magazine and think, wow, it must be nice to have it so easy? Well, think again. Behind that glossy cover or smiling face is a ton of hard work, countless failures, and endless learning experiences. I'm Rebecca Minkoff, and I'm here to tell you that success isn't a walk in the park. It takes grit, resilience, and a willingness to take risks. That's why I created SUPERWOMEN, a podcast that peels back the varnish and gets into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to make it as a woman in today's world. From luminaries and game changers to women you've never heard of but should, this podcast is here to inspire you to take your next leap, no matter how daunting it may seem. We'll explore the sacrifices these women have made, the highs and lows they've experienced, and the lessons they've learned along the way. So if you're ready to be inspired and learn from some of the most successful women out there, join me on SUPERWOMEN. Together, we'll uncover the stories behind the successes and prove that with hard work, determination, and a little bit of luck, anything is possible. Hey everyone, you're listening to SUPERWOMEN. Today's guest is Cristina Mancini, the CEO of Black Girls Code. In this conversation, we talk about how incredibly important it is to have more than one color, one gender in the room showing up, creating our future, what inspires her to keep showing up, and the silver lining in her career. Take a listen. Cristina, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I know of Black Girls Code.
Yes.
Because within fashion industry, we have always, been at the intersection of fashion and tech. But I would love for those tuning in and hearing the name the first time. What is Black Girls Code?
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah.
And I love that you highlight that technology and fashion intersect. So many industries do. And Black Girls Code has been around since 2011. And the focus was to ensure that Black girls could see themselves in technology. And they provided access and opportunity to learn coding nationwide. I stepped in as the CEO about a year and a half ago. As the organization evolved, there became a need to expand on the mission. And I think that, while the original mission of education has always been critical, I wonder sometimes if we have forgotten to activate the communities that we are trying to solve for and to inspire and activate our communities to know that they belong in tech.
Yeah.
So we added an inspire pillar. We kept the education, obviously, but we also added the launch pillar. We expanded the age range, and we went from K through 17 to colleges to 18 plus to provide alternate pathways so that wherever these girls are in the funnel, that they don't fall through the cracks, that there's always something to keep them encouraged and moving along. And so that third pillar of launch is critical, because why are we doing 1 and 2 if we can't launch and provide them with work opportunities on the other side? And my deep desire for these girls is not just that they get any job, but they get jobs where they have the opportunity to really have seats at the table to lead.
Yeah.
We find ourselves in a bit of an epidemic right now where there's just not enough of us in there.
Yes.
In all these rooms. And so that's what we're doing at Black Girls Code.
I love that you're doing it for many reasons, but one of the things that especially is close to home is pre-COVID, I did sort of I don't want to call it a tour, but a tour with Intel to go to different universities to get women interested in coding and technology. Because the mistaken thing is I'm going to be a nerd in a lab coat or whatever. And I'm like, no, the underpinnings of my whole business, the innovation for fashion, for arts, for music is technology. And if women aren't there, and then another segment, if Black women or women of color aren't there, then, as I've read you saying many times, we're not having a future where our opinions are in the coding itself.
100%. Well, first of all, I think that I'm a big old nerd. That's why I like to fly my nerd flag.
I'm a nerd too.
But you can be a nerd and be fashionable.
Totally.
And
it's the best of both worlds.
It's the best of both worlds. And I think that it's really important for these girls, and this is a big part of our curriculum, is to understand that technology is touching every single industry. I come from film and television. I started getting interested in technology when I launched the franchise development department. And, at the time, 20th Century Fox was not Disney. So we didn't have all the theme parks, all the consumer products, all of the, series extensions and comic books to engage and retain the fandoms that we had and were producing. Well, how do you engage in the audience in the in-between time, in between the movie releases and then the DVD release? Aging myself. Well, they're in the digital space. And at the time in film, it was really butts and seats and not enough attention to data. And right around that time, Netflix was really eating the lunch of everyone in Hollywood, but many were not paying attention. I was paying attention, and you could almost predict what eventually happened. But the reality is that once you start spending time with some of these technology companies like Microsoft, HP, Google, traditional marketing conversations become really boring when you realize that we are marketing to people that are male, female, above and below 25. There's a whole spectrum of taste and ways to engage with people in a non-traditional way to keep them connected to these story worlds in the in-between time. Once you start doing that, I've always been a fan of studying people, understanding how to create content and opportunities and experiences that kept them connected to the IP really excited me. And so I moved from franchise into tech. And again, when I left my job in film to work in the tech building, my friends were like,
"Why?
You're crazy." If they did that to me, I would quit. And I was like, no, they did this for me because this is the future and you should start learning it as well. And
in that moment, before you continue, did you feel a fear or a loneliness, or is this really the future? Or were you so convicted that this is the future that you're like, we're leaving you in the dust?
I went to a conference in San Francisco when I started getting interested in tech. And I think this was 2015. And it was a conference around AI. And now AI is everywhere.
Wow. That's early, 2015.
And people weren't talking about it that much, but they were at this conference. And I looked around and I was like, dang, I'm the only Black woman in this room. And the things that they were talking about, I was like, it feels like I should not be the only Black woman in this room. But I also was, at the time, the things that they were talking about felt very dystopian.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all of those things happened like in 2022. And we're like running like sheep off a precipice. And we're not, our communities, women, people of color, we're not keeping up with the technology to make sure that we do have a voice in how technologies are being built that are touching every single aspect of our life. You see sometimes a little blurb how something's affecting you, not enough, clinical trials for Black people in healthcare. Here's a really sad one. It's even ageism. There's a platform that settled a lawsuit without claiming fault, who was kicking people off. Again, ageism for women worse. If you're a 55-year-old woman or a 60-year-old man, you couldn't sign up for the platform because they were like, you're obviously dead, right? So because like, who's coding your future? Right. Who's in the room deciding that you could be pivoting into a new career and caring about learning new skills at a later age? It cannot be one demographic that decides what our future looks like.
Right. So tell me about then the transition from leaving what I'm assuming is a comfortable, predictable job, even though it's new territory, corporate America, into an unknown world. And it's a world that you have to push uphill today.
I think this is like my fifth pivot. So I went from TV, where I spent a lot of time in international TV, which was amazing, known entity, 12 years known. I go to film, even though it's at 20th Century Fox, I have to kind of reinvent myself, reintroduce people to what I care about. Then I moved to tech, but then I was recruited to move to tech in San Francisco. And that was really hard. And every time you start a new job, it's a little bit of chutes and ladders. You're like going up and then you go down. But I want to encourage people to continue to do that, because that's the only way you really can grow.
Yeah.
You're in fashion, but you also deeply understand technology.
Yeah.
We need to continue to be.
And it's painful to learn these new things.
It's painful, but it's good. And like the second you get it, it's like, oh, right, that's right. And so I had the benefit of working at an organization that everybody was their customer. And when you're in these organizations and you can look down into other customers, you see just how lacking we are in ensuring that the people who are building these technologies are in ensuring that more people that represent everyone are in the rooms. I was talking to a friend of mine who is HR of a bank, and she was like, from a gender perspective, we were in Denver, and she was like, from a gender perspective in the retail location, it's fine. But as soon as you go to the tech building, it's like you can kind of count on your hand the number of technologists that are in the room that are women, and it just falls off a cliff when you talk about people of color. Why does that matter? Because who's deciding who gets the best interest rate? Who's deciding if you get a loan? Mm-hmm. The data matters.
Why do you think it's falling off? Like maybe the numbers are different now, but it was falling off critically in college.
Yes.
That was like the biggest hole in the funnel.
This is why we are activating across college campuses now. I gave a keynote at Princeton, and this beautiful girl walked up to me, and she was like, she was a sophomore, and she said, I have imposter syndrome. And it's like, man, how do you have because the problem is, especially with these technologies, if you're the only one in the room and no one's doing their homework with you, you start feeling isolated. You start feeling like you don't belong. That's why community is so important.
Yeah.
The same thing happens with women of all races at 35, fall off a cliff. Again, it's you just don't see yourself in these spaces. That's why we need to think about how can we solve these problems at scale.
Yep.
It's not just to come in at the lowest level. And it's not just about being a coder. I believe that everybody has to have a baseline understanding of technology so that if you do want to make a technology, but also if you are looking to invest in a technology, how many times have you said, can I see your development team? Mm-hmm. If you're legislating, do they really understand what they're legislating?
Absolutely not. No, not at all.
Exactly. And even marketing.
Yeah.
Do you understand how to market to an audience that should be included in these conversations if you've never seen them?
Right.
So we need to launch across all verticals. Like we need to be in all the rooms at the table with a voice so that change can be affected at scale. Yeah. Especially right now.
Especially right now. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's weird.
So let me ask this corollary. If you're seeing the drop off of the only girl in the room, now I'm the only Black girl in the room or woman of color, what was different within you that you didn't see anyone else in the room and you said, I'm going to keep going?
I get asked that one a lot. So I've been an executive for a long time, and I got used to being one of the only ones in the room, but as that happens, you start creating space. Like, okay, so I'm the only one in the room. Like, what can I do to bring more people into the room? Because when people don't do that, it's usually from a sense of scarcity, right? Not a sense of abundance. Like, if there's more of us, we create more opportunity. There's more rooms. There's more tables. And then when I went into tech, sometimes I was the only one for floors, which was weird. And it didn't feel good. But more intentionality, more like how can I create space so more voices are heard? Because the problem is if there's not enough of us to talk about, and the media does a great job of erasing us from the conversation, how do you stay motivated to go in, especially with the narrative? I don't like negative narratives. I think that we should be talking more about what does it look like? What does success look like? So that we can help these girls understand that they can be their own heroes. I like to reflect the light back on them. My whole platform is, if I'm your hero, actually you're your own hero. Mm-hmm. I'm not a hero. I want these girls to see that they are heroes. I want these girls to understand that, okay, yeah, it's great to have 1 million followers on someone else's platform, but what would it look like if you built the platform? Right. And what would it look like if you built the platform that wasn't just by us, for us, but what if you built the platform that was built by you for everyone? Mm-hmm. That's where change really happens. Yep. That's where you become a billionaire, not a millionaire. Right. And some of these guys who are building these technologies are no smarter than many of us. Yeah.
I'm going to just say less smart. Let's just admit it.
Thank you.
I'll take the heat for it.
Thank you. I still need to raise money.
We love them. We love them. So in that respect, when you're going and raising money, how are you convincing, let's just say, because we know the stats, 98% men to invest in this? How are you getting them to see the value?
Well, the beauty of it is in this job, I have the distinct honor of meeting with a lot of people that look like us. So they are not the only ones that actually get to decide. And I think you would be surprised to see that, we have some, there's like some villains, but there's a lot of people who actually want to do well.
Yeah.
And finding the people within the organization and also the individual who goes like, this isn't right. We need to do better. We need to create space and opportunity for all, rise up. And what is not so easy to see is that there's a lot of us with power in all of these organizations. And when we come together, it's a collective power that can drive change. And that's something that as we continue to evolve and expand, I really want to focus on reminding us that it's not a lone wolf solution. Right. It's people are in the organization that care about these things and are still donating and investing to ensure that our future is inclusive and that all of our kids have access to opportunity. And the thing that we all do know is the pendulum can only swing so far before it comes back. And we also know that the best products are made when they're made inclusively. So right. I'm not talking about, I don't look at the work that I do as charity. I look at it as a business imperative and something that if we don't get right is harmful.
Yeah. I mean, I have a very good example of that where we were developing, this was again, take us back when wearables were a thing, but it was going to be an amulet necklace that would buzz when you texted. This is again before all the wearables. Yes. And it was an all male design team. I said, this is far too big. I'll never wear it. And they were basically like, well, that's how big it has to be for the battery. And I said, yeah, but women take their jewelry off at night. It doesn't need to be that big. Just make a charging station. But no one would have ever considered it because men don't take their jewelry off. They don't even really wear jewelry.
Exactly.
And that is like that in that room, I was like, oh my God, this is why we need more women staying and not losing in college and coming out, or, women of color staying, because you're going to have another flavor of how, even as a woman, you see things differently.
We're all cultural creators. How boring is it when it's just one type of person who's making one thing? It's always been funny to me coming up through the years. Like I was always frustrated with the difference between marketing and multicultural marketing. I'm like, well, clearly multicultural marketing should get all the money because you're marketing to all demographics.
I know, but people get worried. They're like leaving someone out.
Exactly. It's like, well, what about me? And again, it's like, it's for everyone.
Yeah.
We should be making things that are for everyone. That's the best type of product. And it's possible. We just need to do a better job of collectively bringing community together. And some of the meetings that I'm at and some of the executives that I get to work with and the individual donors who are working to bring together a collective, like really keep me motivated so that we can, we're expanding. We're expanding because we continue to get support because people know that this cannot be.
Right.
AI cannot be. And AI, as it is today, is not a magical genie. It feels like it because it is the accumulation of all the data that's out there. But what if you're not in the data set?
Yeah.
There's so many. All you have to do is Google Black AI harm, women AI harm, age AI, and you can see countless case studies of what does it mean when people are developing technologies that are not built with inclusion in mind.
Yeah.
We're all going to be old one day.
We are. I just have to say, after 40 is way better.
100%. I mean, I wish I knew that when I was younger.
I know. Same.
I look at some of my old pictures and I was like, what was I stressing about?
Same. Become fearless and focused in pursuit of your dreams. In my book, Fearless, The New Rules for Unlocking Creativity, Courage, and Success, now available in paperback, I share personal stories and practical advice I've learned along the way in pursuit of my own, in fashion world and in my personal life. I talk about how persistence and courage have been the keys to my success. I share my journey of building a company and the challenges I've faced along the way. By refusing to give up and constantly stepping out of my comfort zone, I was able to break through the unspoken rules that have held women back for far too long. My hope through writing this book is to encourage you to face your own fears and take risks when going for your own goals. Fearlessness is a choice, and we all have the power to make it. The book is now available in paperback, including updated content and a new bonus chapter. So speaking of stress, some people take a job because it's great paying and it's stressful, but it's not personal. You're in a job that, can be stressful and it's also personal.
Yes.
How do you pick yourself back up on a bad day?
The girls, I love, I do come from a content background, but I love looking at the girls on social, like coding and declaring that Black girls code. It's true, we do. We also have programming that's available for everyone on YouTube. I think it's really important for people to see what a technologist can look like.
Yep.
Going to the programming live, watching what the girls are able to build is truly remarkable. Knowing that beyond just creating technologies that will be better for all of us, really giving these girls opportunities that they deserve while building a community that will lift them up and support them keeps me going. At some point in your life, you have to go like, okay, I'm making a lot of money, but am I happy?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, what can you do within the platform that you have to affect change, which is what I did over like probably the last 15 years of my career. But then occasionally an opportunity comes where you get to walk the talk and someone comes to you with this opportunity and you step away from your big corporate gig to run a nonprofit because you want these girls to have a better experience than you had.
Yeah. So with what's happening in current news, and this podcast obviously will live forever, but today, there's a rollback of DEI. What do you tell these girls and how do you sort of now talk about this as even more critical when people, are scared for a legal backlash if they embrace it? I'm scared sometimes that we say female in front of our female founder collective. So what do you say to that?
All of these things are so weird to me because we're talking about people. Ultimately, we're talking about humans. And the original conceit of DEI wasn't to give someone who didn't deserve an opportunity a chance. It was to prevent people who had all the opportunity from having all the opportunity without being qualified.
Yep.
Our communities are qualified and just need access and opportunity and inspiration. I am not Pollyannish to think that, all of this is going to go away tomorrow because, to be honest, things haven't been easy for many years. When I decided to step into this role, things were already starting to get challenging, which is one of the reasons why I stepped in. Because why, if you're a young girl, would you go into an industry that everybody says is so awful for you?
Right.
Right? So I want to inspire these girls that they are the solution to changing the narrative. Like, what if as a result of this work that I get to do with people like yourself who create a platform for these girls to hear the story, that we are able to change the face of tech so that when I say think of a tech leader, it's not the same 5 white men that you think of. Mm-hmm. What if 10 years from now, you see women in this space, billionaire women who are creating technologies that are making life better for all of us.
Yep.
That's what really gets me going. And in order for that to happen, we need to make sure that when a girl raises her hand, so we get these girls excited. They're like, I've made something. It's moved. I've made an app. We just had Ife on Good Morning America showing her mental health app that she made as part of her time at Black Girls Code. Well, when they get a job, I want to make sure that they're continued to support. I know that as it is right now, the first job, they might be the only one in the room.
Right.
So how do we make sure that they have a community to support them?
Yep.
How do they have mentors and sponsors and peers who they can meet up with or get support from or sponsorship? And sponsorship is not just your own community. Sponsorship as it stands today needs to be everyone.
Right.
Everyone should care about this.
Yep. Because at the end of the day, it's going to affect you, even if you're a white man.
You're going to get old. You're going to get old. You probably
Guess
have
what?
daughters.
Women are taking over.
Exactly. And they have children.
Right.
They have daughters.
Right.
It's just weird to me. And so I continue, like I said, I don't look at the work that we do as charity. It is a business imperative, and it is our collective responsibility to ensure that our communities see themselves reflected in these technologies, and that when given the opportunity to build something for us, that there's a space, there's people who are willing to take a chance and fund it. There are people that are willing to talk about it correctly so it can be successful, that there's people who are willing to take the risk to legislate to make sure that some of these ridiculous conversations go away.
Right. So how can someone listening support the work you're doing and support the girls?
Donate. You can go to wearebgc.org and donate. You can also go to wearebgc.org and sign up to volunteer. We have summer camps that are going to be rolling out in, I think, 12 cities, including Puerto Rico.
Wow.
This year, which is very exciting. And be a support system. Be a support system. Because the reality is that we all need to be thinking about what the future of tech looks like. And oh, by the way, it's happening right now. It's happening right now. And I think the news as it is today is really daunting. And so one could feel that just sticking your head in the sand is the answer, and that just doing this one thing that affects change. To me, I feel better when I give back.
Same. 100%. Every time I'm feeling helpless, I'm like, if I do something, that's the only way to feel better.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to a young woman? Because my demographic of listeners is, let's just say 35 plus, but also 18. So what would you say to the 18-year-old listening that's thinking about technology, that now knows you're not, a nerd in a lab coat?
Yes. You could be a nerd wearing a Dolce & Gabbana top.
That's right. What would you say as like what you see on the horizon of availability for a girl thinking, okay, I want to learn, I want to go into this field, but like, what is there to look forward to?
Maybe because I am a nerd. Maybe because ever since I was little, I've been a fan of taking things apart and putting them back together. The question is, like, what is the art of the possible? There's nothing worse than an idea that you have that you don't express, that someone else executes against. And I think all girls suffer from this. I think we all feel like we have to be perfect before we raise our hand to say, like, hey, I have an idea.
Yeah.
I think, and in this case, you have an opportunity to learn how to build something and show people your idea. Like, you actually get to take, what I love about tech is what I loved about film. I'm sure what you love about fashion. So you can have an idea in your head, and then here it is. Not every industry does that.
Yep.
And you can actually see what you've built, and you can see the good that it is able to accomplish, but you just need to stick with it. So, again, for girls, they can go to also wearebgc.org and sign up to understand when we're going to be in town. We are expanding to more towns, and we're having more of an ongoing presence so that we're not just coming around like every quarter or so. So that as girls start opting in, we stay connected with them and help them find, not just learn how to code, help them find paid internships, help them find paid apprenticeships so that they don't have to work for free.
Yep.
And the added value of that is you start building community, and you start meeting the people that are inside of the organizations where you aspire to work. It's not all doom and gloom. I've met incredible friends when I was working in tech that I'm still very close with. And those people, women and men, are helping me also push forward.
Yeah.
Because this is not like a one woman, this is a community that is coming together to say that, yes, we all not only deserve, but must occupy these spaces in order to create a safe future for all of us.
I love it. I couldn't agree more. Cristina, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Rebecca.
I just wanted to thank you guys for listening to today's episode. I also want to ask you to rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts. I know it's a pain in the butt, but it actually helps with search and algorithms. So if you love this podcast, it is an easy way to get it more visible and out there. I also want you to follow me on Instagram at Rebecca Minkoff, at RM Superwomen, and be sure to check out my book, Fearless, The New Rules for Unlocking Creativity, Courage, and Success. Thank you again, and you will hear from me next week.